On November 19, 2025, NASA promised a major update on the mysterious interstellar object, 3I/Atlas. The anticipation was palpable, with the scientific community and the public alike expecting groundbreaking revelations. The event was hyped for weeks, with NASA teasing new images and findings from their global fleet of spacecraft and telescopes. The date had been circled on calendars across the world. People tuned in to witness a rare moment in science, where a comet from beyond the solar system was being studied in detail. There was hope for new images, new insights, historic moment in the exploration of our universe. But as the live stream began, the reality fell far short of expectations. NASA's tone was cautious, almost defensive. Instead of unveiling groundbreaking discoveries, the message was clear from the start: it's just a comet. The word "just" was repeated with an almost rehearsed insistence. As if to drive the point home, NASA's representatives, speaking from a polished studio, addressed the growing buzz in the online community before even sharing any actual data. There was no evidence of anything unusual, no signs of anything artificial. 3I/Atlas fit the textbook description of a comet. Nothing more to see here. The atmosphere that had been built up for weeks, full of anticipation, quickly shifted. What was supposed to be a moment of excitement and celebration was instead a calculated exercise in managing expectations. NASA had clearly anticipated that the public's curiosity might get ahead of the facts, and they were preemptively shutting it down. The hosts, in their carefully measured delivery, leaned heavily on established science. Comets, they explained, shed dust, have eccentric orbits, and come and go. This was a comet, nothing more, despite its interstellar origins. There was an air of rehearsed caution in every word. It wasn't a moment of scientific clarity that had been promised. It was a moment of careful control. The more NASA spoke, the more it became clear that they were not here to reveal new findings, but to suppress speculation. They were working hard to ensure the audience understood that this comet was nothing out of the ordinary. And in doing so, they managed expectations rather than delivering on the promise of new insights. The live stream, which had been built up as a major scientific event, felt like a missed opportunity. NASA had an unprecedented array of spacecraft and observatories tracking 3I/Atlas. Hubble, James Webb, Lucy, Psyche, Maven, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, 20 missions in total. These missions had been observing the object for months, if not longer. The scale of the effort was immense, and yet, as the live stream unfolded, the promised flood of imagery simply did not arrive. Instead of unveiling a rich visual record, viewers were shown only a handful of faint, low-resolution images. The majority of the data from these 20 missions remained unseen, and no explanation was given for why this was the case. The images shown were dim smudges against a black background, barely recognizable as the object they had been waiting for. NASA's explanation for the lack of visuals was a steady stream of technical justifications. The data, they explained, was still being downlinked. There was a lag between the time the spacecraft captured the images and when they were received on Earth. They also mentioned the need for careful calibration, noting that some instruments had been pushed beyond their design limits, which required additional processing. There were discussions about viewing angles and the risk of optical artifacts when photographing a faint, fast-moving object. Each explanation was plausible on its own, but when combined, they began to create a picture of frustration. The focus of the stream was no longer on what the data might reveal, but rather on why the data could not yet be shown. Later, another anomaly was mentioned. The object's nickel content was described as excessive compared to iron, which was not seen in previous interstellar objects or typical comets. Again, the detail was acknowledged, then quietly set aside. Another clue appeared in a single sentence about dust polarization, a pattern of light reflected from the coma of 3I/Atlas that did not match that of known solar system comets. Polarization is a fingerprint that can indicate unfamiliar chemistry or structure. But, as with the other anomalies, the discussion moved on quickly, leaving the implication unexamined. Another brief mention, this time about the comet's home system, hinted that 3I/Atlas could have formed in a star system older than the Sun. If true, this would make the comet a messenger from a time before our solar system even existed. The idea was brought up and then dropped, as the conversation returned to more familiar, safe territory. A final mention of a subtle acceleration in the comet's path was included, implying that non-gravitational forces, such as jets of gas or dust, might be affecting its trajectory. But again, the specifics were left vague, and the discussion didn't linger long enough to dig into the implications. Each anomaly was introduced, acknowledged, and then immediately buffered by caution or silence. The live stream's tone was one of deflection, always avoiding any deep dive into the unknown. When a reporter asked about the object's shape, the response was slow and measured. It's too early to know. When another question about the unusual carbon dioxide readings was raised, the answer was brushed off with, still being analyzed. Every time the conversation edged toward specifics, composition, origin, or the significance of the odd measurements, the pace slowed, answers became vague, and the discussion circled back to textbook comet behavior. The word uncertain was used repeatedly, as if it could shield the presenters from probing questions. The insistence that 3I/Atlas was behaving exactly as expected for a comet became a mantra. The word ordinary was used again and again, as if the repetition itself could settle the matter. Even when anomalies were acknowledged, the response was the same. Such things can happen with comets, more data is needed, and we'll need more analysis before drawing conclusions. The effect was cumulative. With each answer, carefully measured and buffered by disclaimers, the real story began to shift from the object itself to the way NASA was controlling the narrative. The promise of a major scientific update had given way to a series of deflections and delays. The audience, primed for discovery, was left to wonder if the silence was the most telling answer of all. When 20 spacecraft and observatories are tasked with capturing an interstellar object, yet only a handful of images are shared, it's clear that transparency is not just a scientific value, it's a public right. The unanswered questions, the lack of images, and the constant deferrals to pending review shaped the narrative. In the end, the true story of 3I/Atlas was not just what was revealed, but what remained hidden.